Hello, so today we're going to be covering sidechaining and some of the things you can do with it, whether it's for creative purposes or if it's just for trying to get your kick and your bass to sit together kind of thing. So basically what it is every time a wee piece of the signal comes in, so say it was a kick in a piano, every time the kick came in, the piano would get ducked slightly, like it would be lowered in volume, so that the kick comes through more clearly, but whenever the kick's not there, the piano's louder kind of thing, so it ends up being it makes things sit better, but you can also use it in creative ways to get that kind of breathing effect that you hear in a lot of kind of lo-fi stuff and even a lot of pop music now as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this wee piano over to here, see what that sounds like. That sounds alright, cool. Yeah, I'm just going to play on some chords and then we'll see what happens. Cool, that would do. Probably want it to be kind of longer chords, but I'm going to try to be showing to do. So again, when you pull this up, you get the piano roll here. So much in the same way of cutting up audio, you can move around individual pieces, like individual notes even. So when I hit a note on the keyboard, there isn't actually any sounds in the keyboard. It just tells the computer what note to trigger on this sound that I brought up there. So you can see there. So it's hitting random songs that I'm playing, but so whenever I hit a note, the one that corresponds with that comes up. So what I can do is I can go into the piano roll here and I can start moving them about because it's not just recorded audio. So I'll just move this over and we'll get cool. So to do what I just done there, if you highlight it and then use the arrow keys. So to highlight it, we'll put the left mouse click in, drag down on it, and now we can move that. See how nothing else moves? And then if you want to highlight a bunch of stuff, you can move it over. So you can also quantize things as well. So if I was to, as you've seen there, it says groove. So if I hit this, it'll bring up some different grooves. So I'm just going to go into quantize and we'll just try one of the basic ones. So eighth notes, that means that every eighth note on the bar. So if I put that on the bar in the grid even. So if I put that into the grid there, you can see that it changes size when I put it from 8ths to 16ths, 32. So I think I'm actually just going to drag these over manually rather than have the quantization on it, because I kind of like the wee bits of movement in between it. Kind of makes it feel a wee bit more natural, and that's used in this kind of music a lot. But if I highlight these and I go right down to the edge here, you'll see this wee thing comes up. So what I can do is I can now drag the notes out so they're a bit longer. Cool. So I'm going to put this loop over again. If you were watching the last video, you've probably used this. So if I right click on it, it'll come up with an option to hit loop, and then I hit that, and then that's just going to keep looping now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to a drum rack and I'm going to bring that in, but before I do that, I should actually probably show you what it is. So in here, we'll bring up the drums in the drum rack, so you can bring in like ones with drums that are already on it, like preset ones, but just dragging again into a MIDI track. So we've got a 909 there, wee drum, snare. Or what we can do as well is, if I Control Z that one, do that, I could just drag a drum rack over and it'll be blank, there'll be nothing in it, and I can start to add my own samples in it. It doesn't even need to be drums, you can add anything. If you were to cut up pieces of somebody's voice, you could put it in this, or bits of piano and anything. You can start to get some cool stuff going with that. and again it corresponds with the notes. So see me hitting that there, that's hitting C2 on the drum note. But for now I think I'll just use a preset and I'll put in 909. Quite like the sound of that kick. Well, the drum kick's alright for this kind of thing. I'll use that one. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to hit Control Shift M, and that's going to bring up a wee MIDI box. So within here, once I go up here and I click this, the wee pencil tool, I can start to draw in notes here. You can tell I need caffeine. So these correspond much in the same way that the notes on a piano did, but instead of hitting like different frequencies and stuff, this will just trigger different sounds. So you can hear that, like that tom there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a kick. We'll just try it here. So I'm putting that back to 8th note. We'll try it in here. So down here we'll get velocity as well to do MIDI. I'm going to cover MIDI in another video a lot more kind of in depth, but to do this kind of stuff you need to have a wee tiny bit of kind of knowledge about it to do the sidechaining. So cool. So there's just 2 hits. So if I highlight them and I hit Control D to duplicate it, I can then move this over to here. So then cool, that's a wee bit of a basic beat, but it's fine. So, as I was saying, we're going to be covering sidechaining today, and I know we'll still not go to it, but you need to know a couple of wee things to get you there. So, if I go back over to the left here, and I hit audio effects, if I type in sidechain, I think it should just come up with a glue compressor. Aye, there we go. So we've got the glue sidechain EQ, so you can EQ stuff for that in it as well, but I'm not going to cover that kind of stuff today. We'll just get you the basic ways it can be used, and then everything will be more in depth at one point. So I'll just bring over the drum one. We'll bring this in. So this is a compressor. So what it does is it takes the lowest point of the sound and the highest point of the sound and kind of like flattens the dynamic range. I'm doing a lot of hand actions here, but I've just realised that I'm obviously not visible on the screen, so bear with me for 2 seconds. But it takes the loudest part and the quietest part of a song, and it kind of squashes it down so they aren't as loud and aren't as quiet, so they all kind of sit around the same space. But today we're going to use it to sidechain and talk the sounds. So your attack here is how fast it comes in, so it's how fast it hits, and then your release is how long after it takes for it to stop. So a lot of times, see how even just when using compressors, when you're listening to a lot of kind of R&B and stuff, see that kind of the big kind of splat kind of snare, you get that by like properly compressing into a drum, putting the release right down all the way around here, and you'll get that kind of splat sound. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit sidechain here, and you'll notice it says audio from, so I can actually choose what I want the audio to be coming from. So you can see down here we've got all the tracks here, including my reverb, my delay and my master, that you can see corresponded down this way. But I'm just going to hit the 909 kit. So this is a threshold here, so dependent, this is how much the signal gets ducked. In this case it's going to be how much the signal gets ducked when the kick comes in. So even if I turn the kick off, it will still work. So you can see that's only moving a tiny bit. Can you hear that kind of like moving a wee bit? So I'm going to do, I'm going to just make it all the way through to make this easier. So again, by double clicking on that, opens up the piano roll, and I can just duplicate this all the way through now, because I'm not going to use it as an actual drum beat. So you can hear that now, and the makeup is how much louder it's going to be after it. So this kind of boosts it up after you've sidechained it. So there's not really the breathing effect there, but when I put this right down, can hear it. It goes with how the kick's going, and the kick's going at quarter notes. So just like that. I'll duplicate that quickly. So it kind of breathes with it and it kind of floats and it makes things sit a wee bit nicer. So you could use that between a kick and a bass. I wouldn't recommend putting the threshold right down like that for between the kick and the bass, but it's used a lot in like, see your pop music, your trap music, where you're kind of like big 808s and stuff, and your kick are usually clashing. And I mean, if you listen to an 808 and a kick in the same song individually, they're probably going to sound quite bad. But when they're together and you've not got all the frequencies mashing and stuff, after you've sidechained them and stuff, it makes kind of the one sound. So it's used a lot to make things kind of sit together. But as I was saying before, it can also be used as an effect. So right here we've got the instrument comes in, and then the sidechaining happens. So if I go to audio effects, and I'm just going to bring in a reverb just now, I can select a bunch of them by clicking here, or I can just drag this from straight away and it'll just give me the basic reverb. So this is your dry wet. So this is how much of the sound is affected by this effect, hence it's called effects. So if I put this all the way up, you're going to hear it. It's going to be properly reverb. I'm going to take this off. This might sound like it's in a cave. Yeah. So that's by putting it right on it. But also, alternatively, with a reverb, you can use the sends. So within here, we've got one already on a send, but I'm going to cover sends and different things at a later date. So with this reverb here and the sidechaining on, you'll start to hear the reverb gets sidechained as well, because the reverb's coming in before the sidechain. So you can actually turn things into these kind of pad type effects. So as you can hear that, it sounds more floaty and kind of ambient. But the same goes for if I put this after it. It's just going to add reverb to the sidechained effect. So, well, basically what I'm saying by that is be very wary of where you put things, because it can change the sound. But also happy accidents. Like, I cannot stress enough, happy accidents happen all the time, where you'll be mucking about with something and then you'll hit something by mistake. I think it was a song a couple of years ago. Well, no, actually no, it's more than a couple of years ago, it's 2020. But a song called Like a G6. And I think the producer, I can't remember his name now, but the producer that made the song, it was originally, it was a top line kind of synth, and he accidentally hit a bass preset, and that is how like the main thing of that song kind of came about, with the melody. So I hope that's covered everything you need to kind of know about the basics of sidechaining today, and in the next video I think we'll be going more in depth into MIDI. I just wanted you to be able to kind of understand the basics of, like, obviously this is your piano roll here, draw in notes by clicking this, clicking anywhere, but make sure you click notes that are in key, and again I'll be going into music theory and different things. Well, there's much music theory as I know. You don't really need music theory to be able to make music. I know that sounds daft, but you can genuinely just muck about and start to get cool ideas and see where it goes for there. It's all about the kind of just having fun with it and rolling with it and seeing what kind of sounds you can get. There are some kind of basic rules that I'll cover for, like, if you're wanting to structure stuff and what kind of songs you're wanting to make, but to be honest, a lot of the rules can be broken and then you end up with a kind of subgenre, so just guidelines really. But I think that's basically everything to do with this wee bit of sidechaining covered today. So hopefully you can use that and apply it to anything you've been making, or even just start mucking about with it and try to get some cool pad effects with the kind of right here. Bye. I'll see you in the next one.